Hello, YouTube. This is Nomad756 here with my solo LP of Dark Souls El Numero Dos. Let's get right into it. Few little prerequisites about this playthrough. We're going to be playing the full game and all its DLC, obviously. Going to be...
Perhaps you've seen.
We're going to be talking over cutscenes because this game's just about a year old now. So you know, if you've wanted to play it or care about the story enough, you've played it or you've watched it or whatever. But basically, I'll talking a bit about the story since I'm talking over story cutscenes. I really like this opening cutscene mainly because it sort of implies that there's a journey before we take control of our character, the monarch, the next monarch, as he's called, the chosen undead, whatever your word of choice is for him, your name of choice.
You will lose everything.
And we learn a bit about the curse, obviously, and how it.
The symbol of the curse.
I guess the best way to explain it, in the Dark Souls sort of world, what I'm meaning to say is, I really like how this whole journey thing, and I also like how, what was I going to say? Now, it's very clear he's from a foreign land, and he's had to journey to not just Drang Lake, but to the place to get to Drang Lake. He's been through a journey.
Other than human.
There's a spider there. And,
thing that feeds on
there's some theories about this character, that she might be the Emerald Herald, that she might be just the Firekeeper, that no one really knows, for sure.
Long ago, in a walled-off land far to the north.
Yes.
A great king.
Drang Lake looks nothing like that, or at least it doesn't when we get there. What I was going to say, Dark Souls sort of has this theme of, life sort of sucks. It's a very dark story, Dark Souls is, ha ha. But it's worse to be immortal, or at least undying, which is what you are. In the Souls games, you're undying. You're incapable of truly passing on to whatever comes after death in the Dark Souls universe when you're cursed. And what goes instead of your life when you die, instead of your ability to live and your consciousness leaving your body, it chips away, and eventually your consciousness dies out and you become hollow. You lose your memories, your personality, your hopes, your dreams, everything that makes you a person is lost when you hollow out. Which I think is really, there's some parallels to Alzheimer's. It's a bit loud, don't know how. I have to do some audio correction there. It draws some parallels to Alzheimer's and basically being trapped in your own not necessarily trapped in your own body, but you as a person stop existing, but your body continues to live, and you sort of you as a person die out, but you are still alive, and it's really dark, obviously, and I guess that's an Icarus reference, and it seems to be you know, there's a lot of imagery in Souls games. I couldn't really decipher most of this. I'm not an image expert. This seems like a bad plan. All those dark spirits jumping out. Yeah, just jump on in there. A few more things about the playthrough. We're going to be going through with a strength dex build, with possibly later going with some sorcery. So, yeah, if that's not something you're interested in seeing, yeah. And we're going to be basically, we're not going to be worrying too much about talking to NPCs and such, because I've gone through this game so many times now that it's just sort of meh to me. I mean, if you want to really hear what everyone has to say, you know, grab the game yourself. Of course, we're now in Things Betwixt, which is, I imagine by the name, just suffering from the name, Things Betwixt, it's the land between, obviously, our world, or our character's world and Drangleic, which is pretty obvious. That's like a thing, and it's underground. Something I really like. In the Dark Souls games, they have a lot of these, or at least Dark Souls 1 had this as well, where it's sort of, you know, you're in a cavern underneath your feet, even when you're on the top layer, there is just this whole layer beneath you, and we're currently in the sort of middle layer, and of course that goes for a lot of areas in Dark Souls 2 as well. Beginning area, not a lot to talk about, not much to do. You got the small little enemies here. They're non-hostile, obviously, they just run away from you. You can attack them to make them hostile, but they will pretty much kill you instantly because you have half health and not a lot of stamina. A few things to say about your gear. You have the rusted coin, that's a luck boosting item. You have the imported set because you're obviously from a foreign land, not from Drangleic. And you can't really say much about your characters because these are the Dark Souls series, the Souls series, Demons, Dark, and Dark 2, are very much role-playing games. In that, even when you create a character, you're sort of given the basis of the past. I will just check out this guy up here. This fantastic enemy that I love to fight all throughout the game, even when I'm good, and if you can't detect the sarcasm. This is the Hippo Cyclops. He got the booty. The booty. And smack the booty. And then run. Run from the booty. Yeah, Hippo Cyclops is bitches to fight. Won't be fighting him. Anyway, this is a role-playing game, as the Darks. They really emphasize the whole role-playing element in that your character doesn't speak. Your character is... I'm gonna have to blow that. Your character doesn't speak. Your character is an empty vessel, really, for your sort of story you craft for them, and even stuff down to the classes. And in the Dark Souls 1, the faces, you're told a bit of a story. Like, you'd have a description of the initial face you chose in... Yeah, the face of the curse. We're talking about faces. In Dark Souls 1, you choose a preset face, and it will tell you something about their homeland, like, the face of an Astoran noble, its features are such and such. And I think that's really interesting, like, and it's more just the classes in Dark Souls 2. You pick a class, and then you're given a series of items that help you determine where your character's from, which I'll talk more about once we pick our class, because that will.
Go hollow.
Yeah, so they're talking about going hollow now.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll become one of them.
So yeah, basically every enemy we're fighting in the game pretty much is a hollow.
Feast upon their souls.
And it seems that hollows
Is the fate of the curse.
are trying to regain their humanity, I suppose. They're not I don't know. They have no hopes or aspirations, so they could just be souls are a thing. Because souls are a source of power in the Souls games. Souls are, we're just going to go on with the shorthand version of my username here. Souls are sort of a source of power and a currency and all sorts of things in the Souls universe. Obviously, you use them to level up. You use them to buy items. They're a gameplay mechanic. Obviously, at their core, they're just XP/gold. But they're in the story context, they're a source of power. So everything about this game is sort of focused on getting souls. You get souls from enemies to level up. You get souls. You get the 4 great souls to get to the next stage of your journey. You have to get your main goal is using souls to reignite a flame, or in this one, it's a little different, or using souls to gain power to get stronger to do your mission, your quest. Oh, yeah, we can actually talk about the effigies. The effigies are really interesting as a... we're just going to do some very basic stuff. So, you'll see... before I talk about the effigies, you'll see here I'm wearing a specific... I'm going with the Knight class to start with, because they start with good life and stamina and such. The Knight class will be a good example. I'll talk a bit more about it. We'll just slim up our character here and muscle him up. The Knight is a Volgan. It's a lot to go through. A lot to talk about. We're just gonna go with this hair. Player black. I just picked my class, basically, and we're not going to do too much to this face, so we're not going to spend too long in here. No, that's better. Oh, we just picked our class Knight, and we'll see when we go out that the items we're wearing will actually have item descriptions that kind of tell us a bit about our character, what he was before he came to Drink Lake. We won't focus on that. No, that's fine. And we're going with the Petrified Something because that can give you a special item very early on. Probably not one that you can use very early on, but certainly one that'll come in handy later on in the playthrough.
To break the curse.
Indeed.
You're no different, I should think.
So yeah, it's kind of implied that the undead are drawn here by some force,
You never know.
or at least encouraged to come here in order to cure the curse. Which, of course, the curse is that they are undying. The curse of immortality, really. And
trot along to the kingdom.
And so we'll see a bit more of it later, but there are clearly a lot of people who are fresh, and people who are freshly undead and new to this world, and people who have gotten to the point they're hollow. I don't like this line too much because it sort of beats you over the head with the whole, oh, you're going to die, it's Dark Souls, ha 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 ha. And you know, I'm going to die a lot. It is Dark Souls. But it feels just a bit too on the nose, like they're a bit too self-aware. This whole game feels strange compared to Dark 1, considering that's just our DLC items. Considering a bit... Okay, so we'll, considering I only beat Dark Souls 1 a little while ago, we only have the imported hood. We'll put that on, because in this game you don't get to keep your hat. Here we go. I'm worn by Volgan Falconers, so we know we're from Volgan, and we're a Falconer. Then we learn domestic Volgan soldiers are infamously timid, so it is no wonder that the fierce band of mercenary falconers was hired to compensate. In practice, they serve as bodyguards for the affluent elite, and they serve well, such nobody dares scrutinize their backgrounds. So we just learned a little bit about our character. He was probably a noble's bodyguard. He's a falconer. He was called in to make up for the weakness of other troops. We learned just a little bit about his background here. We could sort of peruse, create a story from that, which I'm actually considering doing something where I basically create this. I tell the story of this character every 5th episode or so, or however many episodes I record in this session. I'll do a little narrated story piece, but that's for later. That's put in the comments if you guys want that sort of thing. Which of course we're gonna light the bonfire and just rest. We just got a torch. The darkness mechanic in this game obviously isn't as much as they wanted it to be. There was this big thing where, you know, it'd be hard to see. I'm gonna go through the tutorial area, by the way. It'd be hard to see very far in front of your face, so you'd have to use the torch, but and give up your shield slot, which of course would have been like a huge change to the way the Souls game is played, because the way Souls games are usually played, they're played with a sword and board style, or a I'm so far away they can't hit me style. That's how the Souls games are usually played. But the torch mechanic would have made it so sword and board was less of an option. You had to dodge more and, you know, keep on the move a lot more. But obviously it was taken out for some reason. A lot of people give the game shit for not having that darkness mechanic. I won't, because I'm assuming a developer should have it. Now, this first undead, ooh, he's fun. We can talk about this guy. He's got a bow, so obviously he's different than most. But also, if you'll notice, he has the exact same set as us, the imported set. And these guys have like bits and pieces of the imported set. So it's suggested that that undead with the bow, and probably all the other undead here, they were like us. They were from a foreign land, and they came here. But they weren't like us in that they weren't. I mean, these guys are probably just guys. We were a knight, we were a falconer, we had a story, a journey, a life before we came here. But these guys were probably just farmers and you know, you can. It's very much a speculation thing. We got Dina and Tilo here. We'll just kick this ladder down. Okay,
Give it most.
yes.
Yes, you. Give us silky.
Yes, we have to give them the smooth and silky, which is a petrified something. These are the crow trading items. They're a holdover from Dark Souls 1. I don't know if they're in Demon Souls. I've played a bit of Demon Souls. Haven't really played much. So you can trade items. In 1, it was a little different. You had a bunch of different items you can trade. Now there's just 3 general trading items that you get at different points in the game. We got an old whip. That is actually really useful because it's an incredibly powerful weapon from the get-go if you can get your stats up to it. It's a strong one. But right now, we're not going to be using a whip build or dex build or anyway. We're going to be using mainly a strength dex mix build, and then specking for sorcery after that. Because there's some bullshit you can do with sorcery, which is why we're going to spec for that and not faith. They nerfed faith in the patch. For those who don't know, faith basically you perform miracles, which are a kind of spell that have a lot of uses. Like you have heals and return to your bonfires and sort of backup spells, and you have a few ranged options that allow you to do damage at a range. And sorceries are spells, basically. They're spells. They're a lot more offensive, and they're a lot more. You have a lot more uses, despite them being. Luckily, we hit him on the sides from there. They have a lot more uses, despite being slightly weaker. So you can use them more. They're used for more over time. Oh, we just saw a Phantom there. We'll see other players' Phantoms running about. I believe that was a New Game Plus player, because the Armory had. I don't think you can get that without being on New Game Plus or being here, unless he did the tutorial area later on. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I was talking about sorceries. Sorceries are usually weaker. They do have a few multi-use spells, support spells I'd call them. But miracles have more support spells, but they have less offensive options. But the offensive options are more powerful. But there's less of it. Like there's a bunch of this game's got a lot of different ways you can play it. The strength build we're going to be going for is pretty much the simplest way to play it. It's pretty much just hit hard, hit slow, but hit hard enough that I don't need to be fast. That's basically all the playstyle we're going to be going with. I'm going to be going for a greatsword build, for those who know. An ultra greatsword build, I should say. The weapon we'll be using is called the greatsword, which we'll get a little later on, after the first few areas. Not much to say. Oh, there's a special little hidden thing over here. If you can beat these two, that Hippo Cyclops and Hippo Cyclops that's around the corner there, you can get into that coffin you'll see just beyond that Hippo Cyclops there, that one on the beach. That changes your gender and nothing else. It has no other advantage or bonus. It just changes your gender. Just a thing. Like if you're sick of playing as a guy or you're sick of playing as a girl, you can play as the other one. Like no real lore reason for it. Just it's there. We completed the tutorial area. I'm going to be heading on to Majula, which is our hub town, basically. You'll notice I'm two-handing the broadsword. 1, because I don't have a shield, and 2, because this increases your damage. It changes your moveset in some cases, and it's basically better to do. Like you should never be. If you don't have a shield, or you have something else in your left hand that isn't useful, like 100% of the time, you should always be two-handing your right hand or left hand weapon, depending. And yes, so yeah, just so you know, we can obviously one hand, that'll decrease our damage, but I think our the stamina of the attacks goes up. There's a lot of different like advantages and disadvantages to each playstyle. Now we got a Divine Blessing. That's a healing item, a good healing item. It cures all. It's a heal and cure all ailments. We're gonna get some secret items that are strewn about Majula before we head on. Get down here, and we got a Morning Star and a Cleric's Sacred Chime. The Chime is the faith, the miracles. I was talking about miracles before, and binoculars. Binoculars might come in handy later. Chimes are the faith catalyst, and a catalyst is basically You can't have a sword and cast a spell in this game, basically. You have to have a catalyst, which for a sorcery it is a staff, or just straight up called a catalyst. For for faith users and miracle users, it's a chime. We'll show it off a bit more in a minute. Talk to that. Emerald Tail, she's your level up person. You come to her whenever you want to level up. She stays here in Majula pretty much 100% of the time. You do meet her about, but she doesn't actually move from Majula, technically. That's way later down the line. We're not going to be talking to many of the NPCs around the town. When we do talk, though, we're not going to be skipping any dialogue, so, you know. We've got an Estus Flask, that's the main healing item of the game.
He who made Drangleic what it once was.
Yeah.
He who peered at the essence of the soul.
So we're essentially learning about
King
Vendrick, who's he's our main objective for most of the game. Our objective is to, our quest,
seek misery.
Indeed, is to go on
For
and
misery
fight
will lead you to greater, stronger
Vendrick,
souls.
which requires a stepping stone.
You will never meet the king with a soul so frail and powerful.
So she's just said that our soul is frail and powerful. That's because we're newly undead, obviously.
Seek
we were
those
just
whose
human,
names are
only
unutterable.
human before.
The four endowed with immense souls.
Mm-hmm.
Their souls will serve as beacons. Once you have found them, return here to me, so that hope will not fade away.
Yes, so we have to find the 4 great souls. We don't technically,
Bearer of
actually.
the curse.
It's just we have to, the 4 great souls will increase our power.
Larger,
So,
more powerful
the
souls.
other method we can use is to farm
the
out
king.
1 million
That is
souls.
the only way. Lest this land swallow
Yes,
you
better
whole,
seek less. We'll
as
learn a
it
bit more
has
about
so
that
many
later.
others.
So yes, we don't need to talk to her right now. With the 4 immense soul, the 4 great souls, as they're called, you don't actually have to grab them. You could actually, theoretically, save for one thing this game does. You could stay in one area and get the equivalent of the 4 great souls. You basically have to farm out 1 million souls. I'm just going to do some inventory management real quick. You have to farm out 1 million souls, is the other way to do this, because your soul is weak right now. Because you're newly undead, you weren't particularly special in life. You were just a falconer. You were just a knight who protected nobles. You weren't some powerful legend. You were just a guy. And I really like that about Dark Souls, is that you have a past. There is a past to your character that you can sort of determine, but they're not legends, they're not champions, they're just guys or girls. They're just people, and you pick them up at the beginning of their legend, really, because we're at the beginning of the next monarchy, which is me. I'm the next monarch. We're gonna do one thing quick. We're gonna pop 2 souls, level up, and then we'll probably end this episode there. Ooh. Oh, no, we don't want to use that. That's Crack Red Eye Orb. That's PvP. We're not going to be doing a PvP run. We're not going to focus on... I'm not going to focus on PvP too much, just because it's not my style.
Seek soul.
Yeah, Bearer, seek lest. There you go. I'm not going to do a PvP I'm not going to seek out PvP because it's not really my style. I usually just play the game PvE, which, play versus environment and play versus player for those who don't know. Just level up. Now we can pump a bunch of stats. The main 3 stats we're going to be pumping is our vitality, our strength, and our dex. And then we're going to switch into int once we've sort of put stuff out. Now for now we're just going to put into our dex, which is basically your bow use, knives, daggers, you know. There's some scaling things, which I'll talk more about later. They're a bit heavy of a concept to do right now. But we'll end the video here. We'll get a good old view up here. I plan on doing a bit more with this playthrough, namely, maybe trying to narrate a story and tell a story about this character. Nomad, the Nomad, we'll call him. The Nomad, the Nomad Knight, whatever you want to call him. I want to do something like tell his story and maybe have write something for it and craft something around the Let's Play we're doing. So if you guys want to see anything like that or not, just put it down in the comments, stuff like that. And Anyway, we'll end the first episode for now. I was the Nomad 756 with Zero Access Gaming. See you in the next one.